She leans in when you speak. Her eyes linger just a second too long. There's a softness in her voice that wasn't there before. She asks about your day, laughs at your jokes, and sometimes even lets a little vulnerability slip. You can feel it. She wants you. But then, just when you think she's about to let you in, she steps back. The messages slow down. The tone cools. The warmth turns to distance. One day she's all in. The next she's ice cold. And you're left sitting there wondering, what just happened? Did I do something wrong? Did I misread everything? You didn't misread it. You didn't imagine the interest. She wants you. She's just not ready to hand herself over yet. And that's because she's testing you. Not always consciously. Sometimes she doesn't even realize she's doing it. But instinctively, she's probing the edges of your self-control, the limits of your patience. She's looking to see if your attraction is driven by discipline or desperation. Because here's the truth. Most men don't want to hear, in the early stages, especially when a woman senses you're interested, she's not just reacting to you. She's observing you, watching how you handle uncertainty, waiting to see if you can sit with the discomfort of not getting what you want right now. That discomfort? That's the test. See, it's easy to stay composed when everything's going your way. When the attention is constant, the affection is flowing, the responses are instant. But when the pace slows down, when she stops giving you the same energy you're giving her, that's when your real character shows. That's when most men crack. They start chasing, they start over-communicating. They start trying to fix something that isn't broken. And in that moment, the frame shifts. She goes from feeling drawn to you to feeling she has control over you. And nothing kills attraction faster than realizing a man's sense of self is fragile enough to be rattled by a few delayed replies. In Stoicism, there's a principle called epatheia, not apathy, but the ability to remain undisturbed by external events. This is the foundation of patience. It's not about sitting still, hoping for the best. It's about moving forward with purpose, regardless of the timeline. A Stoic man doesn't measure his actions by her speed. He doesn't let his mood be dictated by her availability. He doesn't try to rush the process to satisfy his own insecurity. He understands that patience is not waiting. It's enduring without losing momentum. And that's exactly what she's trying to see. Can you endure the uncertainty without losing yourself? Because here's the paradox. When she feels you can handle the distance, she feels safer closing it. When she sees you won't fall apart if she's not constantly reassuring you, she starts to trust you. And trust is the soil where attraction grows. But the opposite is also true. If you can't hold your ground, if you fold at the first sign of resistance, you confirm her fear that your interest isn't grounded in strength. It's driven by a need for validation. And once she senses that, she'll keep testing you. Not because she enjoys it, but because she's already losing respect. A woman's tests aren't always calculated schemes. More often, they're instinctive patterns shaped by millions of years of evolution. Long before dating apps, before texting, before the luxury of instant connection, a woman's survival depended on her ability to read a man's true character. She couldn't afford to be wrong. Choosing the wrong man could mean the difference between security and danger. Patience tells her three things. 1. You can regulate your emotions. If you can stay composed when she pulls back, it shows her you're not at the mercy of your impulses. You can think before you act. You're capable of making decisions from strength, not need. 2. You have options. A man who has no other options becomes impatient because he fears losing the only one he has. But a man who moves through life with abundance, whether in opportunities, purpose, or relationships, doesn't panic over a single person's pace. 3. You value yourself enough not to beg. Begging doesn't have to mean literally pleading for attention. It can show up as over-texting, over-analyzing, overcompensating. Patience is the quiet refusal to sell yourself short. Think of it like holding a rope. She's holding one end, you're holding the other. Every time she pulls back, most men panic. They yank on the rope, trying to pull her closer. But the more you pull, the more she resists. The Stoic approach, you keep your end steady. You neither drop it in frustration nor yank it in fear. You give her the space to loosen her grip on her own. You trust that if she truly wants to step closer, it's about discerning the difference between a natural test of your composure and a toxic pattern that erodes it. The Stoic mind knows when to wait and when to walk. But most men fail here. They confuse patience with passivity. They think holding back means doing nothing. And in doing nothing, they waste the very time they should be using to sharpen themselves. That's where you have to flip the perspective. Her test is not an obstacle, it's an invitation to focus on your purpose, to deepen your discipline, to master yourself. Every moment she's making you wait is a moment you can invest in becoming more formidable. Every unanswered text is a rep in the gym. Every delayed date is an extra hour refining your craft. Every pause in attention is an opportunity to prove, to yourself, not to her, that your life does not stop for anyone. Because here's what most men don't realize. When you're truly patient, you're not waiting at all. You're moving, you're building. You're leveling up so consistently that by the time she's ready to step closer, she's not meeting the same man she left at a distance. She's meeting a man who's advanced far beyond that point. And when she sees that, that's when the test ends. Not because you passed according to her rules, but because you stopped playing by them altogether. Impatience is one of the fastest ways to expose weakness, because it shows that your sense of control depends on someone else's timeline. And once that truth is out in the open, it can't be hidden again. A man in his frame doesn't need to force the pace. He knows that time is his ally, not his enemy. The impatient man sees time as a threat. Every day without a reply feels like a loss. The Stoic man sees time as a filter. Every day that passes is one more day proving whether she's worthy of his world. That's why Stoicism treats patience as active discipline, not passive endurance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, the delay isn't the problem. Your perception of the delay is. The test is never truly about her. It's about your response to her. When a woman tests your patience, she's not just observing your behavior, she's reading your energy. You might think you're playing it cool, but if you're checking your phone every 10 minutes, replaying conversations in your head, and strategizing your next move based on her last text, she can feel it. That's not patience. That's pressure disguised as composure. Pressure suffocates attraction. Patience gives it air. Think about the strongest men in history. The ones who built empires, led armies, and reshaped the world didn't move on impulse. They knew how to wait without weakening, how to let time work in their favor. That's the same muscle you're training when you resist the urge to react to every small shift in her behavior. And here's the paradox. While most men think acting fast shows interest, in reality, moving too quickly often kills it. Not because women want you to ignore them, but because they want to feel that your interest comes from a place of abundance, not desperation. Impatience reveals scarcity. It says, "You are my only source of fulfillment, and I need you now." Patience says, "I'm already fulfilled. You can join me if you wish, but my life is moving regardless." One drains her attraction, the other deepens it. So what does this look like in practice? It means when she slows down, you don't try to speed her up. You keep your own pace. You keep showing up for your mission. You keep your commitments to yourself. You live in a way that makes your time too valuable to measure in unread messages. And here's the key. The more you invest in your purpose during these moments, the less you feel the need to pass her test. You stop seeing it as a hurdle to clear and start seeing it as a chance to get sharper. Because the truth is, a man living in alignment with his purpose never really waits. He advances. There's a phenomenon I call the mirror effect. And it's one of the most powerful shifts that happens when you truly master patience. At first, she's in control of the tempo. She decides when to reply, when to show interest, when to pull back. She's observing, waiting for your reaction, seeing if you'll break formation. But as your patience holds, something subtle happens. The mirror turns. Suddenly, she's the one questioning. She wonders why you're not reacting. She wonders why you're not chasing. She wonders if you've lost interest or if you've found someone else. Her mind starts creating the very urgency she once tried to trigger in you. That's the mirror effect. You take the pressure she tried to put on you, absorb it without flinching, and it reflects back onto her. Now she's the one navigating uncertainty. But here's where most men fail. They give up right before the mirror turns. They hold steady for a while, but as soon as doubt creeps in, maybe she's lost interest, maybe she's moved on, they cave. They reach out, they double text, they just check in. And in that moment, all the ground they held is gone. The test is failed, not because they weren't patient for a week, but because they couldn't stay patient for as long as it took. You have to understand, a true Stoic man doesn't put a timer on his discipline. Patience is not "I'll wait 2 weeks and then I'll act." Patience is, "I'll keep my frame for as long as it serves me, and if it stops serving me, I'll move on my terms, not because I cracked." The ancient Stoics didn't just talk about virtue in times of ease, they trained it in times of hardship. They embraced discomfort as the forge where character is built. That's exactly what her test is. It's discomfort disguised as delay. When you accept that, you stop counting the days. You stop replaying every interaction. You start living in such a way that when her attention finally returns, you're already 3 steps ahead in your own life. And that's the real power. The test becomes irrelevant, because the man who's anchored in his mission is not waiting for a green light from anyone. He's already moving, already building, already leading. So if she comes back, great, you meet her from a position of strength. If she doesn't, great, you've already leveled up beyond where she left you. This is the essence of Stoic patience. You control your response, not her reaction. You decide the pace of your own life, not someone else's whims. You use every delay as a training ground for your discipline. And when you live like that, the test isn't just passed. It stops being a test at all. Most men see her test as an obstacle, something to endure until it's over. But the man who truly understands Stoicism sees it as an opportunity. Because here's the truth. Every test a woman puts you through has hidden benefits if you have the eyes to see them. When she slows things down, when she becomes unpredictable, when she starts pulling back, that's not just a test of your emotional control. It's a moment that forces you to strengthen skills you'll use far beyond romance. Patience under pressure teaches you to lead without demanding, to keep moving without immediate reward, to focus on what's in your control and let go of the rest. These are not just dating skills, they're life skills. Think about it. Business deals take months to close. Careers take years to build. A body worth being proud of takes seasons of disciplined training. Everything worth having requires the same muscle she's forcing you to train right now. The ability to keep showing up without instant results. So instead of resenting her for making you wait, you flip the frame. You think, good. This is exactly the resistance I need to grow stronger. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Every delayed reply, every vague answer, every unpredictable mood swing. It's all just mental weight training. And just like in the gym, you don't curse the weights for being heavy. You thank them for making you stronger. Most men will never get this. They'll take the test personally, as if it's proof they're not enough. They'll react with insecurity, or worse, with frustration. And in doing so, they'll fail, not because she's too difficult, but because they missed the point entirely. You take the Stoic path. You recognize that her test is a mirror, not a verdict. It's showing you exactly where your discipline is strong, and where it's still weak. And that self-awareness is worth more than her approval. Because if you can master your emotions here, when the stakes feel high, you'll be unshakable everywhere else. Patience doesn't just keep you from failing her test. It changes the way she sees you. Most men are open book. She knows exactly how they'll react. A little pullback from her, and they'll rush in with more attention, more reassurance, more effort. She's seen it 100 times. But when you stay patient, when you refuse to be hurried or shaken, you introduce something rare into the equation: mystery. Because now she can't read you. She can't predict your next move. And that uncertainty is where curiosity starts to grow. The moment she can't tell whether you're waiting for her, or whether you've already moved on, is the moment she starts thinking about you more, not less. And here's the beautiful irony. She might think she's testing you, but in reality, she's the one being pulled into a psychological loop. This is one of the core advantages of a Stoic frame. The Stoic man doesn't announce his every thought, doesn't broadcast his every feeling. He lets his actions speak, and his lack of reactivity leaves space for the other person to wonder. And the more she wonders, the more she invests. Mentally, emotionally, even physically. Curiosity is like a spark. If you feed it with patience, it becomes fire. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In relationships, this means resisting the urge to fill every silence with reassurance. You let her feel the space. You let her feel your absence. And in that space, she starts to miss what's no longer overflowing toward her. But here's the key. You don't use patience as a trick. This isn't some manipulative tactic to make her chase. It's simply you living at your own pace, on your own mission, without rushing to meet someone else's emotional timeline. Because mystery without substance is just an empty shell. Mystery backed by a man with purpose, that's magnetic. When she realizes she can't figure you out, and that your life is already full without her, her test starts to work against her. She begins to think, if I don't close this gap soon, I might lose him entirely. And that's when the dynamic shifts. There's a trap a lot of men fall into when they hear advice about patience. They think, all right, I just won't text her. I'll act calm. I'll wait her out. But deep down, they're boiling. They're checking her socials every hour. They're replaying old messages. They're imagining what she's doing, who she's with, and why she's not choosing them right now. On the outside, they're silent. On the inside, they're frantic. That's what I call performative patience. And it's not real discipline. It's just delayed desperation. Because here's the thing, she can feel it. Maybe she can't put it into words, but women have an almost supernatural ability to sense when a man's calmness is genuine and when it's an act. The smallest cues, the way you respond when she finally reaches out, The tone in your voice, the energy you give off, will reveal whether you've truly mastered patience or you've just been holding your breath. True Stoic patience isn't about holding back a flood of emotion until she returns. It's about redirecting that energy into something productive, so there's no flood at all. That means you don't just wait, you live. You double down on your mission. You deepen your training. You strengthen your connections outside of her. You live so fully that when she finally checks back in, she's walking into a life already in motion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." If your patience is just a mask covering in a chaos, you're still letting the outside event, her delay, control you. And the irony, the more you focus on what's outside your control, the longer the test will feel. The more you focus on your own growth, the shorter it will seem. So, drop the act. Don't perform patience. Practice it. Not as a strategy to get her back, but as a habit that keeps you grounded, no matter who stays or leaves. Because when your patience is real, you stop worrying about whether the test will end, and start realizing you've already passed it. It's one thing to talk about patience in theory. It's another to live it when your chest feels tight and your mind keeps looping back to her. So let's break this down into practical Stoic strategies you can actually use while she's testing your patience. 1. Reframe the timeline. When you start counting the hours since she last replied, you've already lost. Time feels unbearable when you measure it in micro-intervals. Instead, zoom out. See this moment as a small dot in the larger picture of your life. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about seeing events from the perspective of years, even decades. What feels urgent now will be irrelevant in the grand arc of your story. 2. Anchor in the physical. Stoics understood that the body can shape the mind. When anxiety builds, move your body. Lift, run, stretch, breathe deeply. Your mind follows your body's cues. A man in motion feels less trapped in the prison of overthinking. 3. Control the controllables. Her pace out of your control. Your attitude, schedule, and progress entirely yours. Make your days so intentional that her response becomes just one small event in a calendar filled with purpose. 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. Seneca advised exposing yourself to minor hardships regularly. Fasting, cold showers, physical exertion. Not to suffer, but to train yourself to be unshaken by discomfort. Waiting for her is just another form of discomfort. If you've built that muscle, it won't break you. 5. Keep a daily reflection journal. Patience is easier when you see your own progress. Write down what you did well each day, where you stayed composed, and where you slipped. This shifts your focus from her actions to your growth. 6. Speak less, do more. Every moment you want to break the silence with a text. Redirect that urge into an action that improves your life. Let your life fill the space that impatience would otherwise occupy. Remember, these aren't tactics to win her. They're disciplines to win yourself. If she returns and finds you stronger, more focused, more grounded, that's just a side effect. The real victory is that you've become unshakable whether she stays or goes. Patience practiced like this stops feeling like a passive weight and starts feeling like an active advantage. Patience is a virtue, but only when it's paired with wisdom. Without wisdom, patience can turn into passivity, and passivity can turn into years of your life slipping away while you wait for someone who's never coming back. This is where a lot of men fool themselves. They say, "I'm being patient. I'm letting her come to me." But what they're really doing is avoiding the truth. They're calling inaction discipline because it feels better than admitting they're stuck. The Stoics were clear about this. Patience is not the same as stagnation. Marcus Aurelius didn't sit on the palace steps waiting for Rome to fix itself. He acted deliberately, strategically, on the things within his control. In your situation, that means you need to constantly evaluate, is my patience producing growth? Or am I just holding my life on pause? Here's the test. If your patience is making you stronger, more capable, more centered, you're on the right path. If your patience is keeping you in limbo, shrinking your world to revolve around her absence, you've crossed into wasting time. Seneca warned, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Time is the one resource you never get back. If you spend it staring at a closed door, you risk missing the open ones all around you. Patience is meant to be active. You train, you build, you move forward, regardless of whether she eventually decides to step back into your life. If she does, she finds you ahead, not waiting in the same spot. And if she doesn't, you've still won. You've built something far more valuable than her approval. A life so full and forward-moving that no single person can derail it. That's the difference between Stoic patience and blind waiting. One sharpens you, the other slowly erodes you. At first she thinks she's in control. She pulls back, slows the pace, and waits to see if you'll crack. She expects you to react, to text more, to push harder, to try to win her over. That's how most men respond. That's how the test usually ends, with her holding all the cards. But when you stay patient, when you keep living your life without breaking formation, something subtle happens. The pressure shifts. Now she's the one wondering, why isn't he chasing? Why isn't he trying to close the gap? Has he moved on? Her test starts working against her. Instead of confirming that she can pull you in whenever she wants, your patience forces her to re-evaluate her assumptions. You flip the frame, without games, without manipulation, simply by refusing to be rushed. This is exactly why the Stoics valued self-command. Epictetus taught that if someone can dictate your emotional state, they control you. But if you stay calm and steady regardless of their actions, you've taken back the power. And here's the key. You're not making her chase you. You're simply holding your ground. You're letting her feel the weight of her own choices. And in that stillness, she's left alone with the one thing she can't escape, her own curiosity. The beauty of this is that it works whether she comes back or not. If she does, she meets a man who never broke his rhythm. If she doesn't, you've kept your dignity, your energy, and your forward motion. Patience, when practiced like this, isn't weakness. It's quiet strength. And quiet strength draws more than just attention. It draws respect. In the end, her test is never really about her. It's about you. It's about whether you can master the hardest battlefield a man will ever face, his own mind. The Stoics knew this truth centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his private writings were filled with reminders to control his thoughts, to steady his emotions, to rise above the chaos of others' actions. Your situation may not involve armies or politics, but the principle is the same. You cannot force her to choose you. You cannot control her timing. You cannot dictate the pace of her interest, but you can decide how you show up in the wait. You can decide whether you shrink or whether you sharpen. You can decide whether this moment becomes a wound or a forge. Patience is not standing still, it's standing strong. It's building yourself so relentlessly that whether she returns or walks away, you're still in motion. It's refusing to let someone else's hesitations slow down your purpose. And that's why this test, uncomfortable as it is a gift. It's a mirror showing you exactly where your self-control begins and ends. Pass it, not for her but for you, and you've gained something no one can take away. Because the truth is, she might want you, she might be testing you. But the deeper truth? Life is always testing you. And the man who meets every test with calm, disciplined patience is the man who cannot be broken. So stand tall, wait well, and remember, your life doesn't pause for anyone.